Of the East Hempfield Township Traffic Commission. Tonight's meeting is in person and is being recorded. Robert's rules will apply, as will, what's the other thing we talk about? Robert's rules.
Public comment.
And East Hempfield Township public comment policy will apply. With that, I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's start with our action item this evening, which is a approval of the minutes from March the 20th. Any comment from the board? I have none. Seeing none, any comment from the audience? All right. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from March the 20th.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth and a second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. All right, we have a traffic report this evening from the chief.
Usually when the weather turns warmer, we start fielding a lot more traffic complaints. So the report in front of you indicates concerns that have been brought specifically to the police department attention or the township attention, in addition to complaints that come to the traffic commission. So we had a pretty active month mitigating concerns with the weather turning. We're getting our signage out more frequently, as well as starting to do speed studies.
A question, did we purchase new signage?
We did. We purchased a new trailer that was a capital item. Okay. So we now have 2 deployable trailers that are tow behind. The new one does both speed and message. The other one does just message.
Okay, good.
Mr. Bennett, can you pull your mic closer, please?
Oh, sure. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Also, in Farmingdale and Orville, it seems like we've got significant amount of activity there. Obviously, you're spending more time there. Anything new to report?
No, we continue to monitor that, as well as some other locations. And yeah, as you can see, we continue to get contacts when we monitor for the same type of violations.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead.
Any repeat violations?
No repeaters that I'm aware of.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you for the report.
Sure.
Okay. Let's move down to old business. Bar Boulevard temporary speed hump discussion to replace with another temporary, install permanent, or restudy the area to determine need.
So we had a resident reach out to us regarding the temporary speed hump that was across the roadway nearby their house. And she asked when it was coming back. The temporary speed hump was removed because it was damaged over the winter months. So now seems to be a golden opportunity to ask the Traffic Commission and the Board of Supervisors what they would like to do moving forward. Whether it be a temporary speed hump back in, a permanent hump, or do a study to see if a needs assessment to see if it's actually needed.
Okay. Any comment from the board?
Just a question, the temporary speed hump, I'm looking at one online right now. Does it look like what I'm looking at, which you can't see, but like a rubber hump that gets screwed into the road?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, Perry, it has what, maybe 20 screws that go into the road?
More than that. There's probably roughly, I think there might be 8 per section. And I think there's 10 sections that go across the road. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it's about, 2 or 3 feet wide. I mean,
That's pretty much what it looks like.
Okay. Just want to to understand the difference between a temporary and a permanent speed hump as opposed to a bump. Okay.
I think for me, I've been expressed concern in this area that we've really got to go back in and take a holistic view of everything. That being said, I hear the residents' concern, and I don't want to dismiss it. I guess my first question would be, do we look at possibly instead of having 3 speed bumps on a short distance of roadway, would it be better to relocate and have 1 in that area? Is there a justifiable need to put this one back? And we've pretty much established a procedure as far as doing a speed study to tell if it's warranted or not. I mean, I think we could go down that road if we feel that it's necessary. I think practically looking at it, I think it's going to be tougher to get the speeds that would justify it to go back, just because there's such a short distance before people have to slow down again when they hit the other speed bump. Every speed bump requires 4 traffic signs. So if we keep that in mind in that short of distance, and I wish I had photographs, I had taken some in the past, we would have, with 3, we would have 12 signs on that short distance of roadway. So I guess my question is, can we do a better job of realigning what's there? 1, if not, is it warranted? And should we do a study to determine that it's warranted?
A couple of questions. Have we had anything negative from the residents in that area about the speed bumps that are in there now?
No.
Okay, so we have nothing negative coming back from.
Well, the only thing I did get sign pollution questions. The one gentleman did call and just suggest that some of the signs go away, because I think there is 3 permanent ones and 1 temporary on that street. Am I seeing that wrong on my?
No, but the signs are there already from the temporary. You didn't take the signs down, did you?
Yes.
Yes, they came down as we were taking the old speed table out, just for the simple fact that it will have to be moved because of the amount of holes that are in the road. They elongated as time went on, from the people just driving over them and actually braking on them. It elongated the hole, so it actually has to be moved a little bit. So we would have had to have relocated the signs anyway a little bit. But we just felt taking it down when we removed that, was just the smart thing to do at that point.
It was a prudent thing to do. We have 8 speed humps in that neighborhood now. I guess, and we have a significant amount of young children in that neighborhood also, as was pointed out by, I guess, a communication that we received from Mr. Smith. I personally, I really don't want to spend anything more on additional studies. If we can put it back in on a permanent basis, that would be my recommendation.
So can I just add to the conversation? We did have, Tom, and Cindy, I want to take you back to when we first put these speed bumps in. Now, I know we haven't had any complaints about them recently, but when they first went in, did we get complaints about the speed bumps?
When they first went in, the complaint was they weren't high enough.
But did we get complaints from other neighbors that didn't want them?
I can't recall.
Okay. It's my recollection that we did, and that the community was split about 50-50. Some wanted them, some didn't. I think it depends on where you live as whether you wanted the speed bump or not. There was definitely complaints about sign traffic, or excuse me, like Mr. Madonna had said, sign pollution rather, as well. I mean, I'm not saying we don't do it, but can we at least maybe have a conversation with the neighbor that called in and, maybe have a meeting out there to see like what's actually going to be best? If we had one in mid-block, which is where this other sign, can you point to where the temporary sign was on the screen? Yep. So if we have one there that's mid-block, do we need the other two, or at least the other one down by the intersection?
Well, they're in there permanently now.
They
And,
are.
and, I mean,
The three that are permanent, with the placement of those was determined by the engineer, the traffic engineer, as the place where that would make the most sense. We'd have to go back around and ask him the question again, but this was his recommendation. The one that was put in temporary was in response to the neighbor that felt there should be one in between those two.
and I believe he's the neighbor probably most impacted by that particular hump. I mean, he really wants it.
Can we at least have a conversation with them about possibly moving one of the other ones? Again, we're talking 12 signs versus 8 signs. And I'm not saying we don't do it, Mr. Bennett. Can we just maybe visit it, and maybe we will come to that point.
Okay, I'm fine with looking at it, but I'd like to, in advance of the summer, I'd like to get this done. Obviously, coming into the summer season, can we push this until? I mean, I like the full board to take a look at this, maybe
Sure.
at the April, or not April, at our first meeting in May, and then we make a decision one way or another. That's all. I mean, that's what that would be my thought. You okay with that?
Yeah.
So we'll just hold off until the first meeting in May, and the full board will take a look at this and weigh in at that point. In the meantime, that'll give us some time to maybe talk to some of the neighbors and see what their feedback is on this. Okay.
I will just remind you that moving the permanent ones that are in there means repaving, a portion of the road, because they were milled in and blacktop over, so they will have to be taken out somehow. And if you want to move them, and again, talking about another permanent one to replace this one will, that will have to be paved in also if you want that one to be permanent.
Understood. You want to consider moving the speed tables also, or just dealing with this particular one?
I'd like to have just a conversation with the neighbors if we could. I don't think it would take much. I don't know how many in between those 3 speed bumps. Just make sure that, number one, that's what everybody wants. And if we feel that it's warranted, I mean, we get people coming in all the time that want speed bumps, and I think we do need to remain consistent. I do think if we're going to do it, I don't know how much cost is involved in doing a speed study.
In-house.
In-house.
In-house, yeah, like you just set up.
That's easy.
Okay.
It
I mean,
would
and
be an
maybe we
interesting-
just do that. I don't know, Mr. Bennett, are you happy with just doing that? Like setting up it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone there?
It would be, is it 25 or 15 in the residential area?
25.
25.
Well,
Yeah, and I'm not clear what's different about this area than any other area. Like every area has children. So yeah, I'm trying to ground myself on the whole speed hump situation, and it's just not clear to me why You know, other than some neighbors asking for them, like, why is this different than any other street in East Hempfield?
Well, this was done, most of these speed bumps went in conjunction with improvements that we've just finished on Farmingdale Road. And traffic, because of the speed bumps, pushing traffic into residential neighborhoods. And speed bumps are just a method of slowing people down. We, at the time, I'm sure we did an analysis.
So, yeah, and just to refresh everybody's memory, what happened is we started with Farmingdale Road and Mr. Johnson. Unfortunately, we solved the speeding problem on Farmingdale Road with how many do we have there?
3.
Well,
3. Is there more in the back end?
yeah, two more in the back.
2 more in the back end. We
Yeah.
put 5 on Farmingdale Road. And what that did is it drove traffic into other areas in the neighborhood. So these streets at one time were pretty quiet, didn't have cut through traffic. And now, because we put the speed bumps on Farmingdale, they were also getting a greater volume of cut through traffic and people trying to shave time off of their commute. And it was definitely a problem. Just, did we do it the right way? I don't know. But it was a significant issue at the time.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take this under consideration and we'll do a speed study.
More than happy to
Yeah,
do a
let's-
speed
let's-
study. Obviously with the bumps in versus them out, if they were all to come out, there could be a diverse difference in the studies, but by all means, we'll happily do one as the road is currently.
And we can get
Set.
that done before the next meeting, 2 weeks.
I would say by the next traffic commission meeting. I'm not sure we can have it done in the next 2 weeks.
And maybe we check with the neighbor to see where they think the biggest area of concern is, and you can put it in that location that would even favor what they're saying more.
Well, the neighbor wants it back where it is, just a matter of whether we were going to put it back in on a permanent.
I meant for the speed study.
Oh,
So
okay.
you know what I'm saying, where if they locate it right past the bump, that's probably not going to be best, but I'm not sure from the email where they feel like that the speed is increased. Is it going south or north? Do we know?
From my conversation with him prior to him sending that email, it's not north or southbound, it's in front of their house. It's the cars that are traveling in front of their house, both directions, now that the temporary bump is removed.
Okay.
Where they before had to slow down because there were 4 bumps consecutive, now we have 2 and then what they perceive to be a larger open space where vehicles are speeding up.
Okay.
And because the temporary one they felt was more of a bump than the permanent ones, they also felt like that had additional impact versus the permanent ones. That was the conversation.
And did we have a conversation about this before? The temporary cannot be a long-term solution. Somehow that sticks in my mind.
The temporary ones basically bolt into the ground, and as traffic drives on them, it eventually loosens the bolts, and plowing over them is not the greatest. I mean, we have to almost come to a complete stop, raise the plow, and try to get it over it before we continue on. So they're really not a permanent solution.
Okay.
Okay. Chief, I'd ask you to try to get it done before the next meeting.
We'll do our
if you
best.
can. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And then we'll move on from there. Okay, truck study, Mrs. Schweitzer.
So the truck study, of course, is completed. We did now have the signs in place on Stony Battery and Centerville Road. You have in your packet a copy of 2 studies by the police department regarding the types of vehicles and the speed counts. on Centerville at Gloucester and Centerville at Knights Lane. We're still finalizing and talking about how the enforcement is going to work. And before we start active enforcement.
Okay. Any questions from the board concerning the truck study and the installation of signs?
None.
So on both of these roads, all the signs are up that we had planned to put up.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Farmingdale and Orville.
So I did get the truck usage report on the website. It arrived there late. The stop signs have been relocated. I do have an issue now with the contract from the contractor would like to close out his contract. We didn't do that yet because of the widening of the curve. So that's probably a decision that needs to be made by the board sooner than later. There's about $74,000 we're holding on him.
Is it possible to make that decision tonight at the board meeting?
You could?
Okay. Any thoughts from this board on the closing out the contract?
Just so I'm totally clear on that, if we close it out, then we're essentially saying we're not going to widen it. Is that right?
If you close it out, we'd have to probably rebid the project and get a contractor in to do the work. If we keep the contract open, we could use that contractor to do the work.
Okay. But essentially then we should make those decisions should be simultaneous, right?
Ideally, yes.
Okay. All right, I think I understand.
The
Yeah, so it seems like there's sometimes discussions of down the road, a year or two away, making larger changes to that intersection. So does that play into what we're trying to decide tonight? In other words, if we were going to change that intersection in a year or two, would it make sense to widen it or not to widen it?
Yeah. If you make wholesale changes to the intersection in the future, you would not need the widening.
Yeah.
The only reason you need the widening is because of the pork chop there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And even with the widening, it still might not change or improve the situation there that much.
The concerns of the residents will not be addressed.
And that's my concern. Just again, speaking for myself, I'm not interested in putting any more money into this, at least right now from a road improvement standpoint.
There's also a major concern from the traffic engineer that if you widen that curb, speeds will increase.
I get it. I'm clear. I'm fine with your direction, Mr. Bennett.
Me too.
Let's talk about this tonight and see if we can move it along. You know, I don't think we're going to save any money. If we close out the contract, he gets his money. If somehow we want to do something later, it's another contract, but it isn't like we're going to save any real funds here. But it does possibly free us up to make some other decisions about that intersection once that contract is closed out. So again, we'll have to add that to the agenda tonight. Okay. All right. Any new business here this evening? Seeing none. Public comment. Any public comment from any residents this evening? Yes, sir.
Sir, if you can go to the microphone, state your name and address, and then please, when you're done, make sure you sign in on the form on the table up front. You can pull that mic right down to you.
My name's David Hartnett. I live at 905 Indian Springs Drive in East Hempfield. Excuse me. I have here a petition to add speed bumps to Indian Springs Drive and Pine Tree Way. Commuters and drivers are using Indian Springs Drive and Pine Tree Way as a cut through and speeding while children and people are running, walking dogs, etc. There are no yellow lines that separate the two sides of the street, which means people feel free to speed and use both sides of the street, avoid slowing down for corners and other cars. There are a lot of kids and dogs on this street. We need speed bumps along Indian Springs Drive, extending to Pine Tree Way before someone gets killed or seriously injured. We need to deter speeding commuters who see this as an easy cut through to get to work. The amount of traffic increases significantly during rush hour in the morning and evening. I have petitions here signed by people who live on the street. Their addresses are on here. I have a copy for you guys. I let them know that I would present this to the meeting and then see what goes on from there. I did talk to some neighbors who said that they had tried to come to the meetings over the years and get something done, and nothing was ever done. So I don't know what that means, but this is what we went with, and went around to. You can see all the people on here. They all live on the streets, and they live on Indian Springs and Pine Tree Way. They're all residents of those two streets. So I have a copy of that. That's all I really have.
Okay. Well, we appreciate what you've done with the petition. Public comment, really, we're just here to hear what you say, take whatever information you have. Staff and the Traffic Commission will analyze things again, and certainly we'll communicate back to you with something at the appropriate time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. You said to sign in here, or
There's a form on the front too.
is it okay if I give you a copy of the petition? Just a.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing nothing else in terms of public comment. Anything else, guys? All right, for the good of the cause, meeting is adjourned at 6:27.